There are moments in human history where stories rise not from ink, nor from carved stone, but from water itself. They rise in the trembling reflection of a river touched by the sun, in the curve of waves that hum a rhythm older than time, in the hush of reeds whispering secrets to the wind. In the heart of the Yoruba cosmology, where every element of the natural world carries spirit, memory, and sacred breath, there flows a current that glitters more brightly than the others. It is golden, honeyed, and alive with desire. That current is not merely water, not merely reflection. It is Oshun, the goddess of rivers, beauty, love, and irresistible charm. Yet before her form takes shape, before her name is sung aloud, she is already present, like warmth on the skin before the sun crests the horizon, like a lingering sweetness that stirs the tongue before honey even touches the lips. To speak of Oshun is to speak of the river that bends and curls, weaving through the earth as a lover's arm drapes across waiting skin. It is to hear a song in the gurgle of water over smooth stone, a song that calls not to reason, but to longing. It is to feel the hush of silence that falls when beauty enters a room, soft, arresting, undeniable. She is not merely in the water, she is the shimmer of light upon it, the rhythm within it, the intoxication it leaves behind when one sips from its flow. In Yoruba cosmology, the Orishas, divine spirits of creation, govern the balance of the universe. They are not distant, untouchable gods, but living forces that dance between the spiritual and the earthly. Shango roars in thunder, Oya storms in tempests, Obatala whispers wisdom like white cloth against the skin. And then there is Oshun, who does not shout nor strike, but who seduces and softens, who bends without breaking, whose power is not in fury, but in allure. Her presence is proof that desire itself is a force of creation, that sweetness can move mountains as surely as fire or rain. The world of Oshun glows with golden light, a light that does not blind, but caresses. Imagine a river at dawn, its surface blushing with the reflection of the sky, its edges soft with reeds swaying gently, its voice a murmur both comforting and inviting. Imagine dipping your hands into that water and finding not only cool relief, but a tingle, a secret, a whisper that stays upon your skin. This is her world, one where every detail brims with sensuality, every gesture drips with meaning. Before her face is revealed, one feels her in the curl of laughter carried on the breeze. She is there in the soft drumming of distant ritual, where hands strike stretched tide not in violence, but in rhythm, a pulse that enters the body and makes it sway. She is in the shimmer of beads against bare skin, the perfume of blossoming flowers that lingers too long, too sweetly to be only natural. She is the anticipation before a lover enters the room, the spark in the chest when eyes meet across still water. But Oshun is not merely a goddess of desire. She is also the balm for wounds too deep to see, the cooling current for hearts burned by sorrow. Her rivers carry not only beauty, but also the power of renewal. In her cosmology, water is not passive. It flows, it shapes, it nourishes. Without her, fertility falters, crops wither, and the rhythms of love collapse into silence. With her, the world blossoms. Fields sprout, wombs swell with life, lips meet in kisses that heal as much as they wound. She is both seduction and salvation. To understand Oshun's presence is to understand paradox. She is both tender and unyielding, both playful and grave. She laughs like water over stones, yet her absence dries rivers to dust. She grants sweetness, but withholds it if she is ignored. She dances in silk and gold, yet her wrath can silence an entire land. Her beauty is not a surface, but a force, not an ornament, but a command. Desire in her hands becomes a weapon as sharp as any blade, but also a healing touch that restores balance where it has been lost. It is said that before she comes, one hears whispers, the soft hum of bees gathering nectar, the rustle of silk against thighs, the murmur of lovers speaking in voices so low they are almost inseparable from breath. Her presence builds like music, first a note, then another, until the air thrums with a harmony that stirs the skin and quickens the heart. And then, when she does appear, one realizes she has always been there, in the taste of honey, in the curve of hips, in the river's endless song. The Yoruba people know that to live is to be woven into rhythms larger than oneself. Drums, rivers, wind, and fire. Each Orisha has its pulse, its power. Oshun's is intimacy, the unspoken connection that flows between bodies, between hearts, between the earth and the sky. In her stories, she is often underestimated by the other Orishas, dismissed as soft, indulgent, or weak. But it is she who saves creation when others falter, she whose rivers restore balance when the world cracks beneath pride and violence. This introduction to her myth, then, is not merely about beauty, but about power hidden in tenderness, strength masked in sweetness. The imagery of Oshun's world is drenched in gold. Her mirrors reflect not only faces, but truths. Her ornaments glimmer as though forged from sunlight caught in the current of the river. Bees hover around her, drawn to the sweetness she exudes. And wherever she walks, flowers unfurl as though desperate to touch her skin. Yet beauty alone does not define her. She is wisdom clothed in seduction, justice veiled in desire. Her charm is not vanity, it is strategy, survival, divinity itself. In the hush before her story truly begins, the listener is drawn close, as though leaning toward a secret. The river runs, yes, but it runs with more than water. It carries the memory of every touch, every sigh, every longing ever whispered along its banks. And within that current, Oshun moves unseen, waiting, shimmering, promising. She is not simply introduced, she is felt. Like the pause before a kiss, like the flutter of anticipation before surrender. Her myth begins with a tension so subtle it could be mistaken for stillness, until the heart realizes it has already begun to race. This is the realm into which we are invited, a Yoruba cosmos alive with color and rhythm, with rivers that do not merely flow, but breathe, with a goddess whose essence is both irresistible and dangerous. To hear her myth is to step into golden light, feet, to feel cool water lap at the ankles, to breathe in the perfume of honey and blossoms. It is to be seduced by a presence that has always lingered at the edges of perception. And once Oshun is felt, truly felt, one cannot return unchanged. For desire, once awakened, becomes its own river, flowing endlessly, carrying us forward whether we wish it or not. Thus begins the story of Oshun, not with her arrival, but with the shimmering veil of atmosphere she casts before she even appears. Not with declaration, but with seduction. Not with command, but with invitation. Her myth, like her river, begins quietly, yet it has already claimed us. In the luminous heart of Yoruba cosmology, no figure moves alone. Each Orisha, each divine presence, is a force that ripples outward, touching earth, sky, and spirit. To know Oshun is to know not only her golden radiance, but also the shadows and strengths that surround her, the thunder that competes with her music, the storm that dares to drown her river, the wisdom that underestimates her softness. In this weaving of gods and mortals, her figure emerges not merely as a goddess of love and beauty, but as a radiant axis of desire, power, and emotion. She stands at the river's edge, where water curls into foam and sunlight turns liquid gold. Her beauty is not a shallow ornament, not the fleeting glamour of polished skin or arranged hair. Her beauty is magnetic, the kind that bends the gaze and refuses to release it. Her movements are the flow of water itself, fluid, yielding, yet impossible to grasp. She is fertility incarnate, not only in the swelling of wombs or the blossoming of fields, but in the fertility of imagination, of emotion, of longing itself. She is the current that awakens hidden desires and makes barren lands dream of green. But to stop at her beauty is to misread her. Oshun is not a simple goddess of charm. She is a woman of complexity, veiled in laughter that can hide sorrow, draped in silk that conceals wounds, crowned in gold that sometimes feels like a weight. Within her is a hunger for recognition, for her sweetness to be seen not as frivolity, but as strength. Her sensuality is no mere dalliance. It is a form of power, a weapon as keen as any blade, yet one that leaves lips trembling instead of bleeding. She longs for intimacy, yet fears neglect. For though she offers rivers, she has known droughts when her gifts were ignored. She is radiant, magnetic, but also vulnerable in ways that only deepen her allure. Surrounding her are the other Orishas, each a constellation of power, each reflecting and contrasting her essence. Their presence shapes her myth as much as her radiance shapes theirs.
There is Shango, the thunderous Orisha of fire, lightning, and virility. His presence is heat and sound, drums struck with fury, skies split with flame. Where Oshun seduces, Shango commands. He burns, she flows. And yet between them, there is often a spark, a dangerous attraction, for fire may boil water, yet water may quench flame. He embodies the masculine intensity that both desires and fears her softness. Their union, when it occurs in story or in whisper, is not gentle, but volcanic, the clash of storm and river, passion that both threatens and sustains. Shango's arrogance makes him dismissive of her sweetness, but his fire cannot resist her honey, and in that contradiction lies the rhythm of their entanglement. Beside thunder is Oya, the goddess of storms and winds, fierce and tempestuous. She whirls with tornadoes, sweeps with hurricanes, and tears through forests with unstoppable force. She is wild where Oshun is composed, destructive where Oshun is seductive. And yet, they mirror one another. Two feminine powers often underestimated, each capable of reshaping the world. Oya rages openly, Oshun seduces silently, but both are rivers of transformation. In some tales, they are rivals, in others, sisters of spirit, two forces entwined in the dance of passion and jealousy. Oya envies Oshun's golden allure, while Oshun admires Oya's unbridled freedom. Their relationship is a storm reflected in water, turbulent, beautiful, and dangerous. Then there is Obatala, the Orisha of purity, wisdom, and clarity. He is clad in white, serene, austere, unshaken. Where Oshun is honey and gold, Obatala is milk and marble. His world is order, hers is desire. He respects her, but often views her as indulgent, too playful, too governed by emotion. And yet, even his wisdom bends toward her sweetness, for what is wisdom without compassion? What is order without tenderness? He teaches restraint, she offers release. In their contrast, the cosmos finds its balance. Beyond these towering figures of divinity, Oshun's story is also shaped by mortals. To them, she is not merely a goddess to be admired, but a presence to be sought, pleaded with, adored. Lovers whisper her name in the dark. Women pray to her for children. Men leave offerings by her riverbank for her favor. To touch her water is to touch possibility. Mortals tremble at her beauty, not because it terrifies, but because it awakens longings they can scarcely name. She is as much part of their lives as the beating of their hearts, for rivers give drink, crops, and cleansing, and she is the river itself. Her relationship with mortals reveals her tenderness, but also her danger. When honored, she blesses with abundance, fields heavy with harvest, wombs swelling with life, lovers united in sweetness. When neglected, she withholds, and drought cracks the earth. Loneliness curls into hearts, honey turns bitter on the tongue. Her love is generous, but not unconditional. To know her is to know the fragility of intimacy, the necessity of attention, the price of neglect.
And so, Oshun stands amid this constellation, radiant yet shadowed, alluring yet complex. Around her swill gods of thunder, storm, and wisdom, each shaping her myth by contrast. To Shango, she is the cooling river to his flame, the only force that can soothe his raging heart. To Oya, she is a rival wrapped in gold, a reminder that there are powers beyond storm. To Obatala, she is indulgence, and yet a necessary sweetness that tempers wisdom. To mortals, she is salvation and seduction both, the golden current that carries them from despair to delight. Her allure is not simply physical, but emotional. She is the ache of unfulfilled longing, the sigh after a kiss, the gentle hand on a cheek wet with tears. She is beauty sharpened by vulnerability, strength softened by tenderness. And though she glitters in gold and beads, what truly radiates from her is complexity, a woman who is not only desired, but also desiring, not only giver, but seeker, not only goddess, but soul. In this presentation of characters, the stage is set not merely with divine figures, but with emotional tensions already trembling beneath the surface. Desire pulls Shango toward her, even as pride resists. Envy sparks in Oya's eyes, even as admiration coils in her chest. Wisdom in Obatala measures her sweetness, weighing it against discipline, yet even he cannot deny her necessity. Mortals, helpless and yearning, leave offerings of honey and mirrors, hoping she will look upon them with favor. Each relationship is a thread, and Oshun is the loom, weaving them into a tapestry of passion, conflict, and longing. Thus anticipation builds, for this is not a myth of isolated beauty, but of entanglement, divine, mortal, emotional. Oshun's softness will clash with Shango's fire. Her allure will mirror Oya's storm. Her sweetness will test Obatala's restraint. And in every clash, every whisper, every offering laid at the river's edge, her complexity will shine brighter than gold. She is not simply a goddess of rivers. She is the river itself, flowing, reflecting, nourishing, yet capable of drowning those who mistake tenderness for weakness. And as the characters step onto the stage of myth, the listener leans closer. The atmosphere thickens with desire, rivalry, and unspoken need. The river glitters, thunder rumbles in the distance, the storm gathers, the white cloth of wisdom flutters in still air. Oshun stands at the center, radiant, magnetic, emotionally complex, her eyes promising both salvation and sorrow. The entanglements have not yet begun, but already anticipation pulses like a drumbeat beneath the surface. The golden river shimmers, waiting.
In the heart of Yoruba cosmology, every Orisha carries a burden as well as a blessing. Thunder must break the sky, storms must sweep the earth, wisdom must temper chaos, and rivers, ocean's rivers, must flow with sweetness, fertility, and love. Yet the current of her soul is not always steady. Within her heart, golden and luminous, there stirs a hunger that cannot be sated with offerings alone. Oshun is adored, yes, but she is also dismissed, envied, and sometimes forgotten. Her beauty inspires both worship and resentment. Her tenderness is mistaken for weakness. Her sensuality treated as frivolous adornment rather than divine necessity. This is the source of her conflict, the yearning to be seen not merely as ornament, but as essence. Her desires ripple through her myths like currents under a calm surface. She longs for intimacy that is true, for love that does not vanish once the mirror is set down, once the honey is consumed. She longs for recognition among the other Orishas, who roar with storms and thunder, while her whispers are brushed aside as sweet but insignificant. She longs for freedom, to be desired on her terms, to be cherished not as a passing pleasure, but as a force as vital as the river itself. And yet again and again she finds obstacles rising against her. When she offers her sweetness, she is met with envy. Oya, storm goddess, sometimes glares with eyes like tornadoes, resentful of Oshun's effortless allure. Oya's storms scatter trees, yet mortals still bow to Oshun with honeyed offerings, preferring tenderness to tempest. To Oya, this feels like injustice. The envy between them is not only divine rivalry, but the envy of one woman for another, the ache of comparison, the frustration of beauty measured against beauty. Oshun feels the sting of this envy, for even as she glitters in gold, she knows envy tarnishes her joy.
When she offers her laughter, she is met with rejection. Shango, fire and thunder, too often scorns her softness. His pride burns too hot to admit he craves her river's cool embrace. He roars with lightning, dismissing her allure as indulgent, even as his eyes betray the hunger that flares when she passes. He desires her, yet refuses to yield, and his rejection burns like embers against her heart. She wants not to conquer him, but to be acknowledged as his equal. Yet he treats her sweetness as lesser power, forgetting that rivers can drown as easily as they soothe. His refusal feeds her frustration, and her frustration makes her long for recognition all the more. When she offers her fertility, her power to make the barren bloom, she is sometimes neglected. The other Oshunas, wrapped in thunder and war, forget that without her rivers their battles starve, their lands wither. In one tale, when the world grew dry and creation faltered, it was Oshun who restored fertility. And yet she remembers the silence before her intervention, the way her voice was dismissed until desperation forced them to seek her. Neglect wounds her deeper than envy or rejection, for neglect says, "You are invisible." And Oshun, radiant goddess of allure, cannot bear to be unseen. This triad of envy, rejection, and neglect fuels the central tension of her myth. Her desires are pure: love, recognition, freedom. But the obstacles twist them into longing, frustration, even sorrow. And because she is the goddess of rivers, her emotions do not stay contained within her body. They spill outward, shaping the world itself. When Oshun weeps, her tears swell rivers, drowning fields and villages alike. When her laughter is true, flowers bloom where none grew before. Bees swarm heavy with nectar. Lovers meet in hidden groves. When she feels neglected, rivers recede, leaving cracked earth and hollow wombs. Her body is the river, her heart is the current, her longing is the flood.
And here lies the sensual undertone that saturates her story. Every emotion is translated into nature. Every sigh becomes a ripple, every caress a current. Her beauty does not merely inspire longing in gods and mortals, it reshapes reality. Shango's desire for her boils storms that rumble over villages. Owaya's envy shakes winds that rattle reeds along her banks. Mortals' prayers for her touch cause rivers to swell or retreat. The world is tethered to her heart, and her heart is a river of desire that refuses to be dammed. But Oshun herself is torn. She delights in being desired, for desire is her domain. But she aches to be understood. To be wanted only for beauty is a shallow stream, one that dries in heat. She yearns for the deep current, the intimacy that lingers after desire has been quenched. And yet, again and again, she finds herself at the surface, mirrors reflecting her face, honey sweetening her lips, gold crowning her body. She shines, but she wonders, who loves the woman beneath the gold? Who loves the river when the water runs murky with sorrow? This tension builds like a storm behind her eyes. Sensuality, after all, is not only delight, but also vulnerability. To open oneself to touch is to risk rejection. To reveal longing is to risk neglect. Oshun is adored by countless mortals, worshipped with offerings, pursued by gods. But in that abundance of desire, she often feels the absence of true intimacy more keenly. It is the paradox of beauty, to be constantly seen, yet rarely understood. Her conflict is not the clash of armies or the roar of tempests. It is the quieter, more dangerous clash of longing and dismissal, desire and neglect. The other Orishas may command respect with thunder or terror, but Oshun's struggle is one every mortal heart knows. The struggle to be loved not only for what is visible, but for what lies beneath. Her myth is, at its core, a sensual allegory of human longing, the endless river of desire that winds through every soul, seeking recognition, aching for fulfillment, spilling over when damned too long.
And so her story simmers with forbidden attraction. Shango's pride cannot extinguish the fire of his lust. Oshun's envy is tinged with fascination, for she cannot deny the softness she herself lacks. Mortals who pray for her blessings often pray also for her touch, their offerings heavy with longing too raw to speak. Even Obatala, austere and measured, cannot ignore that sweetness tempers his wisdom. Oshun is at once desired and denied, cherished and dismissed. This contradiction is the river's turbulence, the hidden whirlpool beneath a calm surface, pulling all who near into its depths. The world trembles in this tension, for her rivers are not merely rivers. They are veins of the earth, and their pulse mirrors her own. When she feels unseen, waters recede. When her longing burns, floods rise. When her laughter is true, the land blossoms. Her emotions are not private, they are cosmic. The fate of fertility, of love, of balance rests on the delicate curve of her heart. Conflict and desire twine together like lovers' limbs. Each obstacle sharpens her longing, each rejection deepens her ache, each neglect fuels her sorrow. And in that sorrow the rivers surge, the golden current swells, carrying gods and mortals alike into a realm where desire is not optional, but inevitable. For Oshun is not simply a goddess of beauty, she is desire itself, embodied, irresistible, inescapable. As the myth moves forward, anticipation tightens. The stage is set not for gentle romance, but for sensual storm. A goddess whose longing threatens to flood the world, whose beauty draws both worship and envy, whose complexity defies every dismissal. The river swells, the honey drips, the golden light shimmers on the surface.
Beneath, the current deepens, pulling us closer to the inevitable climax of her passion.
Every river has a moment when its calm surface breaks, when the trickle swells into torrent, when restraint surrenders to inevitability. For Oshun, that moment comes not in silence, but in overflow. Her emotions, too long dammed by neglect and dismissal, surging outward in golden flood. What begins as longing transforms into eruption. What begins as desire transforms into vulnerability, exposed so deeply that the world itself trembles. She stands at the edge of her river, draped in silks that cling like second skin, her body gleaming in the low light of dusk. The air is heavy with the perfume of honey and blossoms, bees humming in restless circles around her. She gazes into the current, seeing her reflection ripple. Beautiful, yes, but blurred, distorted, fractured. For a moment, she sees not the radiant goddess mortals worship, not the allure that makes gods tremble, but the ache of a woman who longs to be more than gold and sweetness. Her heart beats like a drum beneath silk, louder, faster, until the river answers, pulsing with her rhythm. Shango appears, drawn as always by the light he pretends to disdain. His thunder has cooled into silence, his fire dampened by the lure he cannot resist. He steps close, eyes dark with hunger, lips parted as though words might form, though none come. Oshun does not speak either. Words are too fragile, too clumsy for what swells between them. Instead, the silence thickens, charged, trembling, until even the air seems to lean closer. For a moment, the possibility of union hovers, her river welcoming his flame, her softness yielding to his power. His hand almost reaches, her breath almost invites. The world holds itself still, as if waiting for the surrender that could quench him and ignite her. But pride flickers in his gaze, pride that cannot bow fully, pride that bruises even in desire. And Oshun, radiant and aching, feels the wound of it. Her laughter spills forth, not playful, but sharp, brittle as glass. It rings across the riverbank, mocking his hesitation, mocking her own hope. Her golden eyes glisten with tears unspilled. Her lips curve into a smile that tastes of sorrow. You crave, yet you deny. Her voice murmurs, softer than the current, harsher than thunder. You seek my sweetness, yet fear its truth. He turns, ashamed and burning, and the space between them breaks like a dam. Oshun feels the ache crest, her longing spilling into grief, into rage, into flood. The river answers, its current swells, foaming, golden light scattering like shattered mirrors across its surface. Her tears fall, but they do not vanish. They expand, multiplying into waves. Each drop a confession of loneliness, each ripple a declaration of pain. Mortals nearby feel it first. Women fetching water stumble as jars overflow in their arms. Children cry as the river rises too quickly, too fiercely. Fields drink too much, drowning crops instead of nourishing them. The land trembles as Oshun's heart surges outward, her sorrow uncontained. For she is not a goddess who can hide her emotions. She is water, and water reveals. Her body trembles with the overflow. She presses her palms against her chest, feeling the torrent within, too vast for flesh, too heavy for silence. Images flash in her mind, lovers whispering her name, but forgetting her soul. Orishas dismissing her laughter, mortals desiring her beauty, but never seeing her ache. Neglect burns deeper than fire. Envy bites sharper than storm. And now, in this moment of rupture, she lets it consume her.
Golden waters surge from the river, curling around her ankles, rising to her waist, shimmering as if the liquid itself is her blood turned outward. She moves into the current, surrendering to it, silk clinging like second skin, beads rattling as though alive. Her arms lift, her body arches, and she becomes the river itself, no longer goddess above it, but goddess within it, her form dissolving into waves of gold and foam. Her cry is not a scream, but a moan, low and unending, vibrating through the earth like thunder, softened into sorrow. It is the sound of every longing unmet, every caress denied, every whisper dismissed. It is the sound of a heart breaking and mending in the same breath, the sound of desire too immense for containment. Mortals on the banks kneel, terrified yet entranced. They see not destruction, but revelation, the raw truth of beauty stripped of pretense. Her river floods their fields, yet they cannot flee. Her sorrow drowns their homes, yet they cannot look away. For in her vulnerability she is more divine than ever. She is not untouchable perfection, she is longing itself, made flesh and water, made gold and grief. The Orishas feel it too. Oya, storms whipping around her, pauses in awe, envy melting into recognition. She sees in Oshun not weakness but power, a power that does not roar yet still reshapes the world. Obatala, serene in his white robes, lowers his head, realizing that wisdom without tenderness is barren. And Shango, his fire still smoldering, clenches his fists in anguish, realizing that his pride has cost him the embrace that could have softened even thunder. The climax is not gentle, not tender. It is overwhelming, like standing beneath a waterfall too fierce to breathe. Oshun surrenders to her river, and in that surrender she becomes boundless. The current explodes outward, carrying honey, blossoms, gold dust, and sorrow alike. Touch and taste merge, the water caresses like a lover's hands, the air thick with sweetness that coats the tongue, the earth trembling as though it too sighs with longing. For those who witness, it is intoxicating. To be near her flood is to feel every suppressed desire rise within one's own chest.
lovers reach for each other, trembling, unable to resist the pull. Strangers' eyes meet, and the river within them awakens. Even those alone feel hands ghosting over their skin, the phantom touch of intimacy they crave. Her vulnerability has become contagious, her desire flowing not only in rivers but in veins, not only in water but in hearts.
Ocean's climax is not victory, nor is it defeat. It is truth revealed, that beauty cannot shield from longing, that sensuality does not prevent heartbreak, that even divinity aches to be loved. Her body dissolves into golden currents, her tears become floods, her sighs become waves, and in that surrender she achieves what pride and neglect denied her: intimacy, not with one lover, but with the world itself. For in her vulnerability, the cosmos feels her completely, unguarded, unhidden. The flood eventually slows, as all torrents must. The river settles, though higher than before, its banks altered, its fields reshaped. Ocean emerges from the golden water, her skin glistening, her eyes wet with tears and fire alike. She stands taller, though her body trembles, her lips parted as though still whispering a secret. She has been emptied and yet filled, broken and yet whole. Around her, silence falls, not dismissal, not neglect, but reverence. This is the moment when her myth seizes the heart most fiercely, not in her laughter, nor in her beauty, but in her vulnerability overflowing, in her willingness to let the world see her break, and in breaking, to let the world break with her. She is no longer distant goddess, but intimate river, coursing through every soul. Desire has become flood, and flood has become revelation. The climax of Ocean's story is not simply passion, nor simply sorrow. It is the recognition that one cannot exist without the other. Love without vulnerability is shallow. Beauty without ache is hollow. Ocean embodies both, and in her golden flood she shows that even divinity longs, even divinity aches, even divinity weeps. And as the river quiets, as bees settle once more on blossoms heavy with nectar, as mortals lift their heads in trembling awe, one truth remains undeniable. Ocean's emotions are not weakness, but cosmos. Her desire is creation itself, her sorrow a tide that reshapes the world, her vulnerability the very source of her divinity. The river flows on, but it is forever changed, swollen with gold, heavy with memory, carrying within it the echo of her moan, the taste of her tears, the sweetness of her honey. Those who drink from it will never be the same. They will carry her longing within them, a current that whispers of desire, intimacy, and the fragile, intoxicating power of being seen.
After every storm comes the silence of settling waters. After every flood, the quiet breathing of the earth as it learns again how to bear its weight. The golden torrent that had broken from Oshun's heart does not vanish, it lingers, shimmering, seeping into soil, curling in eddies that whisper her name. What was once an eruption is now an imprint, a scar etched into rivers and fields, into gods and mortals, into the fabric of the cosmos itself. Oshun stands upon the bank, her silks clinging to her skin, her body radiant with the residue of passion and grief. She has emptied herself, and in that emptying she has become vast. Around her the river has grown swollen, its surface carrying blossoms torn from groves, grains ripped from fields, golden threads of honey shimmering in its foam. It is no longer the same river, it has become her confession, flowing outward into every tributary, carrying her story with it. The mortals are the first to feel the transformation. Women step carefully to the river's edge, their jars heavy but steady now, filled not only with water but with sweetness. When they drink, they taste not just cool relief, but the lingering touch of Oshun's sorrow and desire. It coats their tongues like honey, burns their throats like longing, warms their bellies like embrace. They carry her emotions home in clay pots, feeding children with soups that taste faintly of her tears, offering men drinks that awaken hidden desires. In every village, hearts beat differently now, quickened by the goddess's confession. The land itself shifts under her influence. Where fields once drowned, shoots emerge stronger, nourished by waters too potent to deny. Flowers bloom earlier, brighter, their petals glistening with gold dust. Bees hum in ecstatic circles, drunk on nectar thickened by her sorrow. Even the air feels different, heavy, lush, as if every breath carries a trace of her sigh. Oshun's vulnerability has seeped into creation, and the world is tenderer for it.
Yet not all is ease. Her flood has scarred as well as healed. Some homes lie broken, swept away by currents too fierce for wood and stone. Families mourn belongings lost to the river, and though their hearts swell with reverence, their eyes still weep for what is gone. The people understand. The river gives and the river takes. To love Oshun is to love both sweetness and ache, both gift and loss. Among the Orishas, silence reigns first. They gather in awe, each bearing the imprint of her flood. Oya, whose tempests often claim dominion, lowers her eyes, seeing in Oshun a storm far subtler, yet far more enduring. Obatala bows his head, robes heavy with humility, his wisdom tempered by new recognition that tenderness is its own form of power, no less mighty than order. And Shango, Shango burns. He feels the sting of absence, the hollow in his chest where her embrace could have been. He had come close, so close, yet his pride had fractured the moment. Now, watching her rise from golden waters, shimmering like a sun reborn, he knows that he has lost not just her touch, but her trust. His fists clench, his thunder murmurs low in the distance, but no storm comes. For once, fire cannot conquer water, it can only ache for it. Oshun does not meet his gaze. Her eyes remain on the river, on the reflection that no longer looks fractured. She sees herself whole, shimmering with sorrow, but also with strength. For in surrendering, she has transformed. She has shown that vulnerability is not a fracture, but a force, not a weakness, but a truth that reshapes the world.
Her choice lies before her, to let this moment pass as rupture, leaving scars of bitterness, or to let it linger as offering, restoring balance through tenderness. Oshun breathes deeply, her chest rising and falling like the river itself, and she decides, not with words, but with gesture. She steps back into the current, lowering her palms until the golden water licks her fingertips. Closing her eyes, she whispers, not commands, not curses, but blessings. The river swirls, glowing brighter, its anger softening into calm. The waters recede from homes still trembling at their edges, leaving behind fertile soil rather than devastation. The blossoms carried downstream root themselves in unexpected places, promising beauty where grief had been. In this act, Oshun transforms her rupture into renewal. She refuses to let sorrow end in scar alone. Instead, she turns it into sweetness, into nourishment, into future. Her people, watching in silence, understand. The goddess has bared herself, and in that bareness, she has chosen not destruction, but gift. Yet the scar remains, as it must. Rivers swollen once cannot shrink back entirely. They carry their memory forward. Mortals will remember this flood, will tell their children of the night Oshun's heart burst open, of the honeyed waters that both drowned and blessed them. Some will whisper with awe, others with fear, but none will forget. She has inscribed herself into time, not only as beauty to be adored, but as force to be reckoned with. The cosmos, too, carries her imprint. Stars shimmer more brightly in the night sky, their reflections trembling in her waters. The moon seems closer, pulled toward her glow as if it longs to touch her waves. Even the sun pauses longer at dusk, stretching its golden fingers across the horizon, reluctant to leave her radiance behind. Oshun's flood has not only changed the river, it has touched the heavens, binding earth and sky in the rhythm of her longing.
She steps from the river at last, her body glowing faintly, her silks heavy with water, her hair a cascade of liquid gold. Around her ankles the current lingers as though reluctant to release her. She smiles softly, not with triumph, but with peace. For she knows that though her vulnerability exposed her wounds, it also revealed her strength. The mortals approach cautiously, bearing offerings of honey, mirrors, and sweet songs. They kneel at her feet, whispering gratitude for fertility renewed, for love rekindled, for rivers that now carry sweetness as well as strength. Oshun accepts, not with grandeur, but with tenderness, her hand brushing a child's cheek, her gaze meeting a mother's eyes. She has become closer, more intimate, not distant in her divinity, but near in her humanity.
For the Orishas, the lesson lingers sharp. They have witnessed what happens when sweetness is dismissed, when beauty is envied, when tenderness is undervalued. Oshun has shown that the softest current can flood, that the gentlest voice can shake the cosmos. None will underestimate her again. Some will fear her, some will desire her, but all will honor her. And Shango, standing apart, feels both hunger and regret. His thunder murmurs, but does not strike. He knows now that to love her is to surrender pride, to lay bare his fire without shield. Perhaps one day he will kneel, not as conqueror, but as man. Until then, he will ache, and his storms will echo that ache across the skies. The outcome of Oshun's flood is not a simple restoration of balance. It is a transformation. The world has tasted her sorrow and her sweetness, and it cannot return to what it was. Rivers flow differently now, carrying longing as well as life. Fields bloom not only with grain, but with memory. Hearts beat not only with desire, but with recognition of their own fragility.
Oshun has changed too. She is no longer only the goddess of allure, the temptress of honey and silk. She is the river unveiled, vulnerable yet mighty, tender yet unbreakable. She has embraced the truth that to feel deeply is not weakness, but divinity. And in doing so, she has reshaped not only her own myth, but the very rhythm of creation. The waters calm, the blossoms root, the air thickens with sweetness. The flood has ended, but its echo remains in every heartbeat, every breath, every ripple. Those who walk by the river will hear her still, in the whisper of reeds, in the hum of bees, in the golden gleam of water that remembers her tears. And they will know Oshun's flood was not an end, but a beginning. Her vulnerability has become the cosmos's inheritance, her longing a current that flows forever. The scar remains, yes, but it is a scar gilded with honey, glowing with beauty, pulsing with desire. A scar that teaches the world how to ache, how to love, how to surrender. And Oshun, standing radiant on her riverbank, smiles with the softness of dawn. The outcome of her story is not despair, nor mere balance, but transformation. Hers, the world's, the river's. Desire has overflowed, sorrow has reshaped, and from it all emerges something richer, something truer, a world that knows the taste of her soul. There is a silence that follows every myth, a hush that lingers once the tale has been spoken, like the echo of footsteps in an empty chamber. Yet Oshun's silence is never empty. It is liquid, golden, alive. Her story does not end with the retreat of her flood, nor with the offerings laid gently at her feet. It endures, rippling through time, curling into the present, reaching even into the heart of the one who listens now. For Oshun is not a goddess confined to the past, nor to riverbanks far away. She is presence, current, flow. She exists wherever water glimmers with sunlight, wherever laughter mingles with desire, wherever tears fall from the eyes of one who has loved too much. Her myth breathes in us because she is us. To speak of Oshun is to speak of fragility, the kind of fragility that is not weakness, but depth.
Her rivers remind us that the surface of beauty often conceals turbulence beneath. The goddess of honey and silk was not born only for delight. She was born also for ache. And in her ache, we find our own reflections. Who among us has not longed to be seen fully? Who has not ached for recognition, not as ornament, but as essence? Oshun's sorrow is our sorrow, and her golden flood is the mirror of every heart that has ever overflowed with feeling too vast to contain. And yet, Oshun is also radiance. To remember her is to remember that longing is not only pain, it is also sweetness. Her waters remind us that even tears shimmer in the sun, that desire, though sharp, carries warmth, and that fragility itself is a form of seduction. The softest touch, the quietest sigh, the gentlest river, these shape the world as surely as thunder and fire. She teaches that beauty is power, but not in the way power is often imagined. It is not conquest, nor domination, nor command. It is the power to transform through presence, to stir hunger with a glance, to soften stone with water's persistence, to bind the cosmos with tenderness. Oshun whispers that to be desired is not merely to be adorned, it is to be recognized as necessary, as vital as the river to the earth.
Her myth becomes lesson, that neglect wounds, that envy poisons, that dismissing sweetness invites flood. For when tenderness is undervalued, it does not vanish, it breaks its banks. Oshun's flood is a warning to gods and mortals alike. Honor the gentle, or you will drown in the force of what you refuse to see. But it is not only warning, it is also promise, for her waters heal as much as they wound. Her flood nourishes as much as it destroys. From her sorrow springs fertility, from her vulnerability blooms abundance. To open oneself, even to break, is not the end. It is the beginning of transformation. Oshun reminds us that scars can glisten, that cracks can glow, that what overflows may yet feed the world. And so, when we walk by a river, when we dip our hands into its coolness and feel it slip between our fingers, we are not simply touching water, we are touching her. We are touching the sweetness and ache of desire itself, the memory of every heart that has ever trembled with longing. In the glint of gold on the surface, in the hum of bees hovering over blossoms at its edge, she waits, she lingers, she whispers. Her story is not bound by Yoruba cosmology alone, though it springs from it with radiant roots. It is human, universal, eternal. Wherever there is love, there is Oshun. Wherever there is sorrow entwined with beauty, there is Oshun. Wherever a body bends toward another, with both fear and desire trembling in its veins, Oshun's river runs through them. Close your eyes now and imagine her, not as goddess distant upon a pedestal, but as breath at your neck, as golden light softening the world around you, as a presence brushing against your skin like silk carried by water. She is intimacy itself, the kind that does not need to be claimed,
the kind that simply flows, wrapping itself around you until you cannot tell where you end and she begins.
This is Oshun's gift and her legacy, the reminder that we are currents, not walls, that to feel deeply is not to break, but to live, that longing itself is sacred. She lingers in every whispered confession, in every kiss half afraid and half consuming, in every tear that falls quietly into a pillow. And she teaches that none of it is wasted, not the sweetness, not the ache, not the scars. All of it flows, all of it becomes river. So when the story ends, it does not end. It moves. It moves in you, in me, in every heart listening. Her waters have touched us, and like the mortals who carried jars filled with sweetness, we carry her now. Perhaps in a glance we give to a stranger, perhaps in the tenderness we offer ourselves when we feel fragile, perhaps in the courage to let desire overflow without shame. Oshun remains because she has been poured into us. And perhaps that is the truest reflection. Myths are not prisons for gods, but rivers through which divinity flows into mortal veins. Oshun's myth is not a tale to be remembered and put away. It is a river that continues to run, carrying her honey, her tears, her beauty, her ache. To drink from it is to awaken. To stand before it is to surrender. To let it pass through you is to be transformed. The final whisper of this story is not loud. It is not thunder, not decree. It is the hush of water against stone, the soft press of silk, the warmth of honey melting on the tongue. It is Oshun herself, bending close, her breath like golden mist, her voice low, as if speaking not to the world, but only to you. Do not fear your longing. Do not hide your tenderness. You are a river. Let yourself flow. And with that, she recedes, not gone, never gone, but folded back into the current, waiting in the shimmer of sunlight on water, in the sweetness of desire unspoken, in the fragile strength of every heart that dares to feel. The story ends, and yet it does not. It lingers, golden, sensual, alive, like the river, like Oshun, like you.